Welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. In today's episode, I have 14 beautiful spring bunny DIYs to help you get ready for warmer weather and that Easter season that is right around the corner. If you like crafting, DIYs, dupes, hacks, thrift flips, or just creating in general, I would love if you would consider subscribing. If you do like any of today's projects, remember to hit that thumbs up. Let's go make some DIYs. I love coming up with DIYs for these cutting boards from Dollar Tree, and I got this free image that I found on Pinterest. I'll link it below in my description box. I'm just showing you that I did pry up that front portion of this sign with my little putty knife there, and of course you can see it ripped everything off, so I just had to come to the fact that I needed to put some of this sticker transfer paper on here. This is just the removable sticker wallpaper that they have at Dollar Tree, and I really love the herringbone pattern. So I just cut that out to the shape of the cutting board. I cut around the edges. I'm using an X-Acto knife to get around the curves there. And then what I do to get that really crisp edge after I do my X-Acto knife here is I get a fingernail file and I just file in a downward motion to get the crisp edge. That's just going to take all of that excess off. It's going to make it look like this actually was made to go on the cutting board. And then since the sticker is a kind of paper, you have kind of like a little white trim there. I just take some antiquing wax on a baby wipe and I just go around the edges to kind of help that blend in. Now, I didn't have any type of surface that was the exact size as this printable image, so I just decided to make my own. This is just a back of one of the signs at Dollar Tree. I had used some of the stuff off the front of it before and was hanging onto it. All I did was just score it with my X-Acto knife. A utility knife would probably work a lot better, but this did work, so I just scored it there, and then I'll start my little cut with the scissors, and then I'm able to just kind of bend this, and it just snaps apart there. It does leave a little bit of a torn edge, so you want to use some sandpaper or your fingernail file there to make sure that you get all of that torn edge cleaned up. And then you guys know I absolutely love this purple school glue. I have so much success with projects like this. I absolutely love it. So I cover the sign surface really well, and then I made sure that the edges of the paper were well covered as also, so that way when I press it down, you're not going to have any peeling or anything like that. And I take my brayer here, which I do have this link down in my description box. I love this thing. So I'm just rubbing it all over, making sure you get a very good bond. Now, if the image does hang over a little bit like mine did, I just clean that up again with my fingernail file there. And then I decided on this to kind of age the postcard, the little printable there. So I just take some antiquing wax on a baby wipe and again just go around the edges of this, and I really like the way it looked. I kind of concentrated on the corners to kind of make it have even more of an aged look. It already prints out like that, but I just thought that I liked the way that it looked, so that's why I did that. That would be optional. Now, I love to do 3D signs. If you guys have watched me, you know that I love to create these for all different seasons, and I thought I would kind of do a different version of one. So rather than sticking styrofoam on the back and sticking my greenery into the styrofoam, I'm gluing it directly to the image here. So I just pulled apart, this is some greenery I got at Hobby Lobby. Any greenery will work, even like the boxwood from Walmart or Dollar Tree, whatever you've got is going to work. I just cut it into some more manageable pieces, and I'm just gluing it onto the back so it peeks out from around the sign. And I decided to kind of have it all go in a similar direction. So it's almost going to look like it's a wreath behind this. So all of the leaves are facing the same circular direction. So normally when I do these, they're kind of sprayed out of the edges, but I thought it would be kind of neat to do this one more in like a circular motion like this. And so on the top and the bottom, I didn't want as much greenery as on the sides, so I kind of pulled apart. You can kind of see how I have smaller sprigs that I'm working with there. And so I just started with a few, and as I got going and when I would turn it over, if I felt like I needed more, then I would add more. But I just really love the fresh look that this has. I think this is going to be so cute in my kitchen or my china hutch, wherever I decide to put it. But you can kind of see here those leaves. You can see I'm doing them that same direction and the same thing all the way around. Pretty basic here. You could also use a different type of glue if you don't want to use hot glue. I just love using hot glue because it's just so easy, but those little silicone finger things are perfect for projects like this. I just picked these up at Dollar Tree, but that way you can make sure that everything dries that hot glue and it's not going to burn your fingers. So when you see those, definitely pick them up. Now to make this pop out, to have that 3D effect, I need to put some type of surface. So I'm just using some tumbling tower blocks. I put a layer of 4 down there and it wasn't quite as high as I wanted it. So I'm just putting some more hot glue to have that second layer of those so it pops out a little bit more, because I don't want to smush the greenery. So I'm just going to put a little bit, well, actually right here I put a lot of hot glue, and I just turn that over, and while it is still manipulatable, I just kind of zhuzh it around there, make sure that it's centered where I want it, everything like that. Now I take and blast my heat gun, because that takes care of all those little hot glue spider webby things that you get. And then I'm just taking some thicker, this is twine I think I got this at Walmart. It's a little bit thicker than Dollar Tree. It's not quite a rope, but I really like the thickness of it. And I just looped that through and had it there because that's how the cutting boards come. But look at how beautiful this is. I think this is going to be so fun for Easter. It will be perfect for spring and for Easter. I just think that the bunny is adorable. Again, I'll leave that link to this printable down in my description box so you can go to the original source that I got it from and print it. But I just think this turned out absolutely darling. I love using this foam core board or cardboard or whatever you have to make a cute little circle out of, to make a wreath. I'm just using a surface or a little template to trace a circle on here, and then I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to cut around. Now when I traced this circle, I thought I wanted a little bigger than that. I kind of wanted that as the size of the opening in the middle of my wreath, and so I'm just kind of going around it. You by all means do not need to make a perfect circle here. When you look at this, once I get this all completely cut out, you're going to think it's the ugliest looking circle. And I agree. It does not really look like a circle, but it works, I promise you. So stick with me here. Now this is some boxwood from Walmart. It's $1.97 for a little, a pick of it. And you can honestly get so many different DIYs out of one pick. So I just cut a bunch of the little separate leaves off there, the separate little sprigs there. And what I do is I run a bead of hot glue around the outside portion of my circle. And then I'm just placing these with the leaves facing over the edge. You can see exactly how I'm doing this here. The stems are facing inward towards the middle of the wreath. And I just go around the entire thing like this. So it actually does move quite quickly if you have all your pieces cut out and everything. Now for the inside, I just do the opposite. I put a bead of hot glue around the inside circle, and then I face the little leaves towards the inner part of the circle with the sticks facing the outer part. So you can see exactly how I'm doing that here. And then once I go all the way around this and get this all completely covered in, you go around the middle. And I just put a little dot of hot glue, and then I just face all of the leaves in the same direction going around the circle. Now you'll get a lot of these little webby, stringy hot glue things from doing this, and so I just blast it with my heat gun here to kind of get rid of those. Just be careful not to melt your boxwood leaves, but that melts all of those little hot glue strings into, it just makes them completely disappear. Anyhow, I have this little bunny, and he came from Hobby Lobby. It was like $2.99 and then 40% off. And he's darling the way he or she, I don't know. I just assumed that the Easter Bunny's a boy, but I don't know. But anyways, I just paint it with some white chalk paint. Like I said, you could leave it the way that it was, but I wanted to kind of make it my own. So just a couple of coats on there. And then I just take a fingernail file and I sand all around the edges of this cute little bunny and to distress it. I love using fingernail files to do detail sanding like this and distressing because you can get into all those little areas. Now you could easily use some like antiquing wax or something like that and dry brush around the edges. Now these cute little windows, have you guys seen these from Dollar Tree? I feel like I've seen a lot of creators do some really, really, really cute things with them. And so I thought I would do something with this because I have a few of them in my stash. So I just whitewash kind of or dry brush some white paint on there to kind of give it a fun little aged look so it's not so plasticky looking. I glue my little wreath down there, and then I use a tumbling tower block and a couple of the little squares to get this bunny bumped out as much as I need to and just glue that on. I did wrap a little pip berry around his neck though. I just think this turns out so cute, and it'll be so cute propped up somewhere like a little shelf sitter. I just think this little bunny in that window has such a darling feel. What do you guys think of this one? One thing that I love to make is banners. I love to have banners for different holidays. I have a couple spots in my home that I like to hang them. I know a lot of people hang them like from their mantles or things, and I thought it would be really cute to make this Eastery spring one. Now I found these darling images on Etsy. I'll leave a link in my description box, but I just printed them out on cardstock, just normal cardstock using a regular inkjet printer. And I just cut them out, and I'm going over the edge to kind of rough the edge up with the scissors, as you saw there, to kind of give it a more natural raw look rather than just a straight cut look. Now I have this kit that you can age things with. I got this at JoAnns a few years ago, but I have seen this brand of different things at Hobby Lobby, but I also think just like regular antiquing wax would work just as well. So just kind of use what you have. Even some like burnt umber acrylic paint, like maybe a little bit watered down on a baby wipe, would work just fine. I'm going over the edge, and right here I'm just showing you that I am going to crinkle the heck out of this because I want all of those wrinkles. I want this to look so aged and antiqued and like it's been around for a million years. So I really kind of embrace the crumpling up of the paper here. And when you go over it with your whatever you're using to age this with, it's going to pick up all of those little crinkles and all of the bends and all of the little tears on the edge of the paper, everything. So I'm kind of going to show you here when I use this as the little stamp or ink blotter that came to age it with. But like I said, some antiquing wax on a baby wipe would do perfect for this process. But you can kind of see how you see all of those little wrinkles in that paper. It really looks like it's old, it's aged, everything like that. That was really kind of the look that I was going for. And I wanted it on both sides because this particular one is hanging on a mirror in my home. And so you're going to see the back of it. And so I wanted it to look like, you know, that it was uniform and aged on the back as well. So if your paper tears a little bit, mine tore in a couple places as I was doing this, it's totally fine. I just embraced it and knew that it just made it look aged and it looked a little bit older. Now, what I'm going to do to make these a little bit more sturdy, because they are paper, but I want to use them from year to year, I put a good coat of Mod Podge on both sides of them, and the ink is completely dry. I printed these out and I did this project the next day, so the ink from my inkjet printer had time to dry. And I go over the front and the back, and I'm using a satin finish here, I believe, but you can use any type of Mod Podge that you have. And this is going to protect the paper. If you had any like rips on the edges of your paper or anything like that, you can kind of see at the far right I had one. It kind of seals that off too. And it gives a texture to this. I wish I could describe the texture because it doesn't, I mean, it feels like paper, but it's like coated paper, kind of like coated fabric, I guess. I don't know how else to explain that. But you definitely will be able to store this and use this from year to year. Now, I have this beaded garland I got at Hobby Lobby. You could definitely make your own. I'm showing you there that you could easily just punch holes with a hole punch in there and then feed some twine through to just hang it on the twine to make it easy. But I have my tool. This is a crocodile. I'll leave a link to this so you can kind of check it out, but it does grommets and it's really good for punching holes through things. I use it on my metal. I use it through like the signs from Dollar Tree to punch holes in. But I really thought it would make this look really finished if I put some little grommets in here. And so these are just some that came with the crocodile, but you can buy the crocodile and the accessories at Hobby Lobby. I actually saw them there yesterday, over kind of by their paper crafting. And I am just taking, you just take the grommet, you place it on the little thing there. There's like a little like nub that you put it on, and then you push down and you can see it puts that on there. I thought that just really gave this a refined and finished look. Looks high end, not like paper. And so I really like that. Now, I'm using some twine here to tie these onto my garland, but I'll show you in just a minute something that I did find that I actually think would work better. But I kind of like this because I can tie them on, and then as the seasons change, I could untie them and tie something else on. I just wanted a really rustic look. I wanted to have today's projects being the printed project, something easy that you could make really easily at home with just a printer, something you could make with your kids, your grandkids. There is the sweetest little girl that messages me and tries to recreate my DIYs. Her name is Eliana. Hi, Eliana. And she loves when I create easy projects, and this is perfect, something that she could totally create at home. Now, here's some little Christmas hooks that are from Hobby Lobby. I found them in their little clearance section. They would work perfect for this project. But look at how beautiful this turns out. I love this. I love that I can change it out for different seasons. I think this is going to be a beautiful addition to where I hang my banners. I mean, think of a cute little mantle display that you could do with this. I love this. And the paper is going to store beautifully because of the coating of the Mod Podge on it. It has such a good texture to it. It is really going to withstand the test of time. What do you guys think? Is this something that you would try? I absolutely love working with this tin, like faux tin tile that you get at Dollar Tree. I buy like several of them when I find them because they're so great to work with. And they come in lots of different colors, but I love that it's the white and silver now. I just printed this little bunny. This is just an image that I got off of Canva, and I just printed it off on some cardstock. I made it as big as I could go on just a regular cardstock, like 8x11 piece of paper. And now I'm just going to open up this little tin, faux tin. I keep calling it tin because in my mind it is, because that's what I want it to look like is real tin, but I know it's faux tin. Anyhow, I just traced this cute little bunny silhouette out, and then I'm just going to cut this out with some scissors. You guys, if you've never worked with this stuff, it is so fun and it is so easy. It cuts like butter. Like those scissors, I mean, it just goes right through it. It's a very thin plastic, but it just cuts really well. You can get all those little intricate details, and it's not like sharp really on the edges. I mean, always be careful, but it's not like a very heavy plastic that would be. So now I'm just going to cover our little bunny here in some white chalk paint. This would be so fun to customize it to whatever color you wanted to do. You can even use this technique for different seasons. So you have a different season you want to do a little cutout or something. I mean, it doesn't have to be limited to Easter. Now on the back, I'm just blasting it with a little bit of my heat gun and pressing it down. I'm just going to give it kind of a concave look. When I flip it over, you'll be able to see the edges are kind of rounded over to look like it really was like pressed tin. Now I'm using a little bit of brushed metallic silver here to kind of dry brush over those highlighted areas there. That just means I dip my brush in the silver, I wipe it off on a paper towel, and then just kind of lightly go over those raised areas. The reason I did that is so it would look like it was metal that was painted and then it was kind of worn off on those raised areas. Now I'm taking some burnt umber. You can use antiquing wax, you can use any kind of dark brown paint, and I'm just going around the edges with my stencil brush. And as I kind of dry brush that, or not dry brush it, but distress the edges with that, I'll rub it with my finger to kind of blend it in to make it look like it's rusted and it's just very aged. And I go over kind of lightly over the whole bunny with whatever's left in my brush. Now this picture I got at Hobby Lobby during one of their 75% off sales. This is from spring of last year. You guys always check those clearance sections at Hobby Lobby, JoAnns, Michael's, like Home Goods and TJ Maxx, and just look for different surfaces you can use for crafts because you can get the best deals. Now I covered it with some elephant chalk paint, and then to add some variation, I used a really light lime green color, and then I'm also using, this is Agave by Waverly's chalk paint, so it's kind of a tealy type color, and just very lightly I'm going over those areas on that chalk paint where the elephant chalk paint dries. It kind of adds a little texture. This just makes it look almost chalkboardy, I guess, but I just love the variation that adds a little bit more detail to it. So now I'm just taking some tumbling tower blocks. I'm going to place these all over this cute little bunny here. This is so when I place him on our surface, it's going to give him that really 3D look there. So I just use hot glue to do all of this, and then I just set him down, kind of center him while the glue is hot there. I can kind of manipulate him a little bit, make sure he's on there really good. And I have this cute little bow tie that I add on to him, and look at how absolutely darling this looks. I love the really neutral feel to this. I think this has such a darling look, and really this could be all springtime and Easter. What do you guys think of him? I just think he turned out so cute. This hanging egg came from Dollar Tree, and it has this beautiful like wood grain almost to it. So I took the little hanging twine off, and I just used a little plaster to fill in that hole. And then I am just taping off I want to do like a little ticking stripe on here. So I tape off the middle stripe there, and then I just using a little bit of paint, pounce on all of the edge of the painter's tape there, and go up that. And then once I have the edges done, I will fill in the middle. And then I am just using a little bit of, and I always say this wrong, and everybody always tells me it's washi tape or washi tape. I'm not sure, and I'm sorry, I probably butcher it every time, but I just use that to make a crisp line so that way I can have my negative space. Hopefully that makes sense. You can kind of see what I'm doing here, but I'm just going to use that little pounce method to paint in the little sides of the ticking stripe. And now for the very satisfying feeling of peeling back that tape and seeing all of your stripes that you painted turned out and there's no bleed through or anything like that. That is absolutely the best when you're crafting. I'm sure if you've done stripes before, you know what I'm talking about. I have this cute little bunny from Hobby Lobby. I was just there yesterday and still saw them in the store, so hopefully yours has some too. But any bunny that you have would absolutely work to do this. I'm just using some little wooden discs that I glued onto the back of the bunny, and I'll put the glue onto those. That's going to give it a sturdy hold with that galvanized metal, and it pops it out like a three-dimensional look. It makes it look much more high-end than if it was just flat on there. And I'm just making a little finger twine bow. I thought it looked really cute to add that on there. Again, you guys know how I am with twine. I just love it. So, you know, whatever kind of bow you would want to make, if you wanted to put it up by the ears, make it a little Mrs. Bunny instead of a Mr. Bunny, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to tie off the middle of the twine though, and then I will just glue that bow right onto his neck for his little necktie. Now you could glue some twine on the back if you wanted to hang this somewhere or rest it against something. I wanted it to stand up on its own, so I am just taking 3 tumbling tower blocks and gluing them edge to edge. And then I will take some glue and glue that on one of the other edges of this, like the end, and then I will glue it onto the back of my egg, and I will kind of prop my egg up so I can make sure that it's not going to be leaning forward or tipping over or anything, and let that dry just a little bit. And then I actually go back in and put hot glue on the top of those, and I glue 3 more tumbling tower blocks on in the opposite direction to make it just a little bit more sturdy. Hopefully that makes sense and you can see what I did there. Here's this little egg. It is so cute. I feel like it is very like French farmhouse. I absolutely love this. It's so simple. That little pop of purple gives it the perfect little Easter touch and little pop of color. Let me guys know what you think of this down in the comments. This project is really like bare minimum 2 projects in one. You could probably even say 3 projects in one. I'm just lumping them all together in this one section of the video. So I'm taking some fabric. I bought 1/3 of a yard. You can see I could easily probably get like 2 or maybe even at least 2 more bunnies out of it. And so I'm just tracing. This is an image. I'll leave the link to this down in my description box. I just got it off of Canva, and I'm just going to cut this out very gently to make sure we're going to make these cute little pillows out of this. I saw these in a store that I went to recently and thought they were darling, and I thought I'm going to do my best to try and recreate this. So you guys, we're going to try and do a blanket stitch. I've never done this before. So I'm using some embroidery thread, and then this is a tapestry needle. So I go through, you can see I went through the center part there, and I'm going to tuck the little tail of my thread down into here. Now I'll leave the link of the video that I watched on how to learn how to do a blanket stitch in case you really want to see a more detailed description of it, because sometimes I feel like maybe I can't articulate things like this. So don't worry, some of the next 2 do not sew. So I just really wanted to try this because the one I saw was sewn like this and I thought it was so cute. So I put my thread back through, and you just loop it through and pull it tight. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense. I've slowed it down a little bit here. So that's my first stitch. So my next stitch, you can see I will come from the back and I will stick it through. And then once that comes through, and it's taking me a little bit here because I've slowed this down here. So hopefully you can see exactly what I'm doing here. So I'll pull this through, and then what happens is when you pull it, and my thread's long because I want to go around the whole bunny. So I just pull that through there, and it leaves that little teeny loop because I don't pull it tight yet. And you just take your needle and you're just going to feed that through the needle, and then you're just going to pull it taut or tight, whatever the correct terminology is there. And it's going to make the cutest little stitch all around this bunny. You could easily use a sewing machine if you wanted to. I've just never done this before, and I thought it would be kind of fun. I like to challenge myself and do new things. So you go from the back, you pull your thread through, it leaves this little loop because you don't pull it tight yet, and then you feed your needle through that loop. My loop got a little tangled there, so I just straightened it out. And then I'm pulling that thread through. Now this does take a little bit of time to do the entire bunny, and so I'll kind of speed it up now and show you that, I just was showing you a progress check there of how it looks. And at first, at this point, when I looked at it, I was like, this is not going to turn out great. This is going to look like a beginner did this. You'll have to let me know at the end if you think it looks like a beginner did it or not. I'm very pleased with how it came out. But it's the same thing all around the entire bunny. You come from the back of the fabric towards you. You'll pull it through until there's that little teeny loop left. Feed your thread through that, and then pull it tight. And you just do that all around the entire bunny. You want to leave an opening at the bottom, though, because you're going to stuff it with some stuffing, obviously, because it's a pillow. Now, if you guys have done this stitch before, you'll be like, oh, I know exactly how to do this. It does take a little bit of time. I had a book going that I was listening to that I could sit here and do this, and it was honestly kind of therapeutic to do. My fingers did get a little bit of sore, so if you have like those little silicone things to put on your fingers, maybe, because it is kind of hard pulling that tapestry needle through the fabric because it's a little bit of a thicker needle, and that embroidery thread is a little bit thicker. But you want to use the embroidery thread for this particular kind of stitch. Now you could easily do a contrasting. I kind of got a similar color to what my material was, but you could easily do like a contrasting one so it showed up more. I kind of got one that blended in because I didn't want it to look really bad and be totally like blaring like a different color. If it really looked bad, I wanted it to blend in. So again, just go around the entire bunny like this. So here is the opening. So we're going to take some stuffing, and I buy really inexpensive pillows that I find either at Walmart or on clearance at the craft store to cut them open to use the filling out of, rather than just going and buying the filling itself, because I feel like that's much more expensive. So I'm just using a dowel to shove the stuffing up into the cute little ears of the bunny and into anywhere that's kind of like a little hard to get to, that you want to make sure it gets filled really well. I filled this pretty good. You can kind of use your best judgment on if you want it really full and tight, like have it be a really tight plush to it, or if you want it to be kind of softer, and more, less fluff in there. So you just use your best judgment. And once you get that completely full, then you're just going to pick up with that blanket stitch and finish it until the end. And that one I just tied a cute little bow onto. Now I'm going to show you this next step, this next one. This is called Unique Stitch, and I've done no-sew pillows out of this. I absolutely love this stuff. So I'm just going around the edge, kind of just like you're sewing, but it's with glue. And you just go around, and then I just do little sections, and then I push that down, and some will seep out, and that's okay. You'll just wipe it off with like a baby wipe or a damp cloth. And then I just go around, remembering to leave the opening to fluff it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry. So I push that all down. We're going to set that aside, and I'll come back to that one. So now I have this floral fabric, and I kind of picked all these to kind of go together. I thought they really kind of had almost like French country vibe, or like a vintage vibe. Anyhow, so I'm tracing. Remember to put your right sides of your fabric together to trace, because you don't want those tracing lines to show. Now this one, I'm using my pinking shears, and I'm just going to cut around the edge with that. Pinking shears, if you're new to sewing or have never seen these, I'm sure most of you are probably like, we know what these are. But honestly, when I started sewing, I had no idea why you would use these or what the zigzags were. So it cuts the fabric in a way that the fabric will not fray. So I'm going to leave these edges raw on this one, and so this is so they won't fray. Now you could cut it with typical scissors, because pinking shears are kind of expensive, and then you could just have the fabric fray around the edge. Would be absolutely darling. So now I'm just taking some hot glue, same thing as I did with that last one with the fabric glue, and I'm just going around the edges. Now this one I'm going to leave like this. My other bunny I'm going to flip inside out and have no seams on it showing. So this one, just going around those edges. I thought these little pinking sheer edges, little zigzaggy edges like this would be so cute on this one. I just wanted to do a few different styles of this particular DIY because I just thought it was so fun. And I have this little glue gun. This is not fabric hot glue. I know they make that, so you could use that. I don't anticipate these plushes getting a lot of use other than sitting like on a basket or on a shelf or something. So just leave an opening in the bottom. And then the same method, you're just going to stuff this. I use a dowel to get the stuffing all up in the ears. If you happen when you're stuffing to notice that the glue has come undone or something, just add a little bit more glue. So I just keep stuffing this bunny until, again, I just use my best judgment with how full I want it. And then you're just going to use your glue to close off that bottom gap there. And so I so apologize that I'm out of frame on this and don't show that. And then I'm just taking some of the other fabric, that little striped fabric, and I make a couple little strips of it to do a little tie, and I just fray the edges and tie that around for his little neck. I just thought that was so cute. I just love how this turns out, and I just kind of cut them off at an angle there, and I just think he turns out darling. So now we're coming back to this cute little plaid bunny here. So I just turned him what will be right side out, and so I wanted all of those seams on the inside. Now honestly, if I was to do this again, I don't know that I would use the fabric glue.
It works just fine. It's just closing it up. I end up having to use hot glue because the fabric glue, I've never really done something that was this tightly filled with the fabric glue. So, I mean, it definitely works. Just know that when you're closing it off, you're probably going to want to use hot glue. So I use a dowel to get all of like the ears poked out where they need to be, the little tail, the little front feet. So that way everything is popped out. And then same method of filling it with the plush. And then you can see what I do is I put a little bit of the hot glue. I think right here I'm just showing that I'm closing it and I'm realizing that I can do this. But what I do is I put a bead of hot glue down and then fold the fabric kind of over itself to kind of make it look like a clean edge, not the raw edge of the fabric. And then I end up gluing those two together. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing here to close this off. It ends up absolutely darling, but I would probably just stick with hot glue next time when I did it. Or maybe not do one that I turned inside out unless I was actually sewing it on a sewing machine, just because of the small intricate details. Now I took this little floral fabric and cut some strips of it to make a little scrap bow, and I just tied it off with the embroidery thread. And then I just tied it on the back of this little neck of this cute little bunny here. And then I had this little thumbtack type thing. It was like a brass tack that I had, and I just cut the little pin off the back of it and then put it on the front there. But don't these turn out adorable? These look exactly like the ones that I saw in this little boutique, and I just think they're so cute. I made them. I actually learned how to do a blanket stitch, which I've always thought, oh, I'll get around to that. I actually did it, and I'm just very pleased with how these turned out. These would be so cute to have like in a little booth if you did that. What do you guys think of these? Are these something that you would try? I know I always say I absolutely love them, but you guys, I really do. I'm so proud of how these turned out.
Are you guys on Instagram? If you are, I would love if you would come and find me. I am Farm Charm Chic over there. I'll leave a link down in my description box so you can easily find me. But come and see what I'm working on. I post there quite a bit. I like to show you things that I'm working on or when I have videos ready. It's just another place to stay in touch. So if you do come find me, remember to send me a DM and say hi, because I do love meeting new friends. So I have tried this technique before and I absolutely love it. We are going to print on some tissue paper. So I'm cutting just a normal piece of tissue paper to be just smaller than a regular size piece of copy paper. And I'm going to put that shiny, smooth side of the tissue paper down towards the paper and then just tape down all sides with whatever tape you have. I just have painter's tape on hand there. But you just want to make sure all the tissue paper is taped down, and you'll feed it through your printer just like normal paper, and the image prints right on the tissue paper. Now, as I'm cutting this out, I just want to let you know that the ink will kind of bleed through to that copy paper, so just be aware of that. I found this darling little flower bucket at Dollar Tree this week, so hopefully you'll be able to find them. But I thought it would be fun to give this a really cute pastel blue color for spring, and I'm going to make some faux rust. So I use baking soda along with like a brown color, like a truffle. I use Merlot, a little bit of yellow, and then like the pumpkin orange. And I just get a mixture of all these colors going together and keep adding baking soda, which gives it texture, until I get the color that I think resembles rust the most. You want to be very sparing with the yellow, but I promise you the yellow is what makes this, because when you look at things that actually rust, it will have like the different variations of colors. So once I get this on my brush, which it's quite thick because of the baking soda, I just kind of dab it in. You can see how I'm going all over there. And you just do that until your heart's content with how much rust you want on your project. Now with this tissue paper, I'm just taking a brush with some water and going around the design. And then I will just lightly pull apart the tissue paper to kind of give it a torn look. So instead of a clean cut line with scissors, it's kind of more torn and like natural looking. Now using matte Mod Podge, I'm just putting a layer down on my bucket where I want the front to be, and just kind of do a very thin layer of it. And then you're going to take and I'm just spreading it so it's even. You're going to take your image and you're just going to lightly press it down starting in the middle, and then just lightly press, because the tissue paper will tear once it gets a little bit of moisture on it. So you're just going to lightly press
And if there's any bubbles, you just kind of lightly smooth those out. This is very sped up of how I did that. So just know you're going to work a little slow. And then I take the matte Mod Podge, and right now I'm just going around the edges to make sure the edges are all down. And then after I have that, I will go over very lightly with a very light coat of Mod Podge over the design. And then to make that image kind of blend in a little more, I take and dry brush some of the original blue color over the top of the design. Now, if you did this on a white bucket, if you'd painted it white, that image would completely disappear and you would not be able to see the part of the tissue paper at all. And it picks it up kind of in the light on camera, the tissue paper, but honestly, when you're looking at it with like your naked eye, you can hardly see that it's tissue paper. But I love this design. I just threw some of my peonies left over from one of my wreath projects and put in there, and I think this looks so beautiful. That rust looks so natural to me. It looks like it's been sitting out in your garden like all winter long. You forgot to bring it in and it just kind of rusted. I just think it's so spring and so cute, and I love this color. Let me know what you guys think about that rust down in the comments, if you like it or if you're not a fan. How cute is this little wicker tray? I think this is darling the way that it is, but it is pretty beat up when you get looking at it really close. And so I'm just going to kind of clean it up and wipe it down. And I notice around the edges of the wicker that it is kind of, the paint is kind of chipped. So I just take a little white brush and go around to kind of like cover in those areas. I will distress this a little bit, but I don't really want like the brown wicker. I'm not sure if this was like painted before, like if somebody else owned it and painted over like a brown wicker or something. So I just kind of do that. And then I'm taking this is elephant chalk paint that I'm going to take on a chip brush, and I try to go in pretty light. And sometimes, you guys, like I go in and I think that I'm going to do a really light, and you can see that there's some areas on there that are really dark, but that's okay because I can go back over once it dries with a little more white chalk paint and just kind of brighten those up a little bit. And then with what is just left of the elephant chalk paint in my brush, I kind of go around the wicker there just to kind of make it look a little bit aged there. Again, completely optional how much you want to do on there. And this is where I go in with some white and I just brighten up those little dark spots that I did of the distressing. I want to use one of the Dollar Tree calendar pages on this, and it does kind of have a weathered finish to it. I'm using this one right here, this cute little bunny. How darling is this? I love this picture. I think it is so sweet. And I thought this would be really fun to kind of like put up with my cutting boards on my countertop or even in my china hutch or something like that, just kind of as a display item. I thought it would be super cute for spring and Easter. But I just think that bunny is so precious. I just love it so much. So I just make sure that the placement and everything looks good. And then if you guys have watched me at all before, you know that I love purple glue stick. I love to use it more than I love Mod Podge on these calendar pages and a lot of more heavy pieces of like paper and things, like cardstock and things. I love to use this glue stick. So that's all I'm using here. I do go over it with Mod Podge. I'll show you that in a minute. But to get it to adhere, I'm just going to rub over it with the brayer there to make sure that any bubbles or anything do get pushed out and all those edges are secure. I take my white chip brush and I go over it just a little bit to kind of make it blend in and have it have a little bit of weathered and aged look. Course, that would be completely optional. I do wipe over this cute little bunny's eyes and nose to kind of make those show a little bit more, so that way it makes it a little bit more sharp looking. And then I just go in with Mod Podge and I go all around the base of this, and then I go around the outer part of the calendar page, and then I go over the paper itself. Hopefully that makes sense. You can kind of see what I'm doing here that I go over. And I'm doing this with a satin finish, so that way it's not super shiny or anything like that. And if there are any edges that kind of do come up a little bit just because of the Mod Podge, I just make sure I roll, after that Mod Podge is dry, I will kind of push those down. But look at how cute this is. I just think this is so precious. I love this. It is perfect for spring and Easter. What do you guys think of this? Have you guys used these calendar pages like this particular one? I would be curious to know what you did with yours, but I just love how this turned out. It would also work really well on a pizza pan from Dollar Tree. So if you can't find like a tray or something like this, a pizza pan, this would be perfect for that. I am making a really cute layered sign here, and this little wood round came in a pack of 3 or 4 of them from Hobby Lobby, and it just costs, when you buy it on sale, it ends up only being $3 or $4 for all 3 of them. And I'm just staining both sides with some antiquing wax, and you kind of see I'm very liberal when I put it on and then just kind of wipe it off with a baby wipe. You could use a brush. You can stain this to be how dark or how light you want, but I just wanted a nice, good, like dark wood piece behind everything. So for the very top layer that I'm using this cute cute little bunny that I got at Dollar Tree, and the edges are always so rough on these that I go around and I sand the edges first, and then I'm just giving this a complete coat of white chalk paint, and then to bring out the little definitions of this cute little bunny shape, I am just going around with some antiquing wax to highlight those areas. This is one of my most favorite types of signs to make. This is I make these signs all the time for my house, and I get so many compliments on them whenever I do them on my channel. Everybody loves how they look, and they are so fun to do. So I'm just cutting a little piece of styrofoam there to glue to the back of the bunny, and then I am going to glue it onto this wood sign, and then we're going to make some magic happen here. So using a couple sprigs or picks from Dollar Tree, and then I have this whole bag of like leftover pieces that I collect as I'm done using things that I'm pulling out to use for this. I'm just going to layer florals all the way around this thing to look like it's just poking out from underneath this bunny. So if I have like 4 of a particular type, you can kind of see how I do like top, bottom, and sides, and then I go off center, and you're just going to work your way around the whole shape of whatever you're using for your centerpiece, and you're just going to keep sticking in evenly around all the different florals. This is so fun because you can add your colors here that you want to use, and like I'm just kind of doing more purples here, and you can use like whatever your favorite flowers are or just greenery. You could even do, if you didn't want to go as far as sticking all these different ones around, you could easily put like a wreath behind. I've just had a hard time sometimes getting the wreaths to stick, and so that's why I ended up doing this method right here, and just keep going around until it looks great to you. Now I'm taking this piece of rope from Dollar Tree, and I wanted to make a tag for the back, but as I was unraveling it to get a little strand of it, I thought that all the little pieces of it would make a cute bow. And so I'm going back and forth deciding if I want a Mrs. or a Mr. You'll have to wait and see what I choose there. But I take a piece of that rope and I just tie it off to make the little hanger there, and then use a lot of hot glue on the back. And then using this pitberry, you can kind of see down in the corner the roll of that I got at Hobby Lobby. It is going to last me a very long time. I bought pink and yellow. Buy it when it's 50% off. It's going to last you forever. And I am just taking this off and sticking those down in the pink and the yellow and kind of every other one, if that makes sense. I go with that method of doing like 2 on the sides, 1 on the top, and then turn it and kind of go on the corners there. So that way it looks like it's even all the way around. And it's wired, so I did just wrap it around like a pencil or something to kind of give it that little corkscrew shape, and I thought that was super cute. Now I'm just trying to decide if I want a Mrs. or a Mr. here. I ultimately decide that if I put it up as a Mrs., it covers a lot of the bunny shape, and I didn't want to take away from that. So I glued it down on the bottom to be a little bow tie for a little Mr. Bunny. The bow would be completely optional, and whatever your preference was. What do you guys think of this? I absolutely love this. It is such a cute little hanger. You can put this on a door. You can hang it from a peg on a shelf. You wouldn't even have to put the little hanging tag on the back. You could use this on a plate rack. I just absolutely love this. This project is just made using some of the paint stir sticks that you get just at the hardware store, and also a couple of eggs from the Dollar Tree in the little pack that they come in. So I am cutting the paint sticks down the smaller size to 8 inches, and then I have these 2 larger paint sticks that I am not going to cut down at all. I'm just going to leave them that size. And I cut 4 of the 12-inch paint sticks down to 8 inches. I hope that makes sense. And then I am just gluing them like crossbars, almost kind of like a ladder that I'm making here. I just thought this would be kind of cute to hang these little eggs from each of these little rungs here. So I'm just using some wood glue and a little bit of hot glue to give them that long-term and short-term hold there. I will completely paint this in white chalk paint. You can paint it to whatever color matches your decor. Now I'm moving on to printing on tissue paper. So I have done this before and I absolutely love it. And I just take a piece of tissue paper, I cut it down to the size of just a regular size of copy paper, and just tape the edges. Now, not all of the edges need to be taped, but you need it to be enough that it will go through your printer, and you just print directly onto the tissue paper, and it comes out so pretty. So I just had those little graphics in egg shapes, and I will leave the link to where I got those. It was provided by the Graphics Fairy, so I'll leave the link to those if you want to print these out. Now I just go around and sand all of the edges of our little piece there, so that way it can have a distressed look. And then I'm just carefully going to cut each of these out on the tissue paper. Now I probably didn't need to be quite as exact as I was, because I will sand the edges, but I'm just cutting them down, and I'm just going to use some Mod Podge to get these to stick on. Now it can be any kind of Mod Podge. It doesn't have to be the satin, the matte, or the glossy. It really is just to get these to stick. So I paint it on very thin, and then I just use my finger to press that in to make sure that it is completely adhered everywhere. Now I didn't mind if there was wrinkles in the tissue paper because it will have a tendency to wrinkle a little bit. I just thought that added an aged look. So just be aware of that. This one I kind of didn't get it centered a few times. It took me a few times. You could see I could kind of peel it up and work with it a little bit there. Just go slow and be gentle because it is tissue paper and it can rip, but you do have a little bit of like space to work with, if that makes sense. So I just do the same technique on all 3 eggs to get those images on there. And then I take my fingernail file, so whatever you use to sand with, and in a slow downward motion, I just go around the entire egg just to get all of that excess tissue paper off, and it's going to make it look crisp and clear. Now, after all of the Mod Podge has dried underneath that tissue paper, I go back in with a very thin coat on the top. This is just going to protect that image so it doesn't get damaged in any way, or if water were to splash on it, depending if I keep it in my kitchen or anything, it's not going to harm the ink that's on there. Now on each of these little slats, I am just going to tie a little bit of twine. I wrap it around several times and then I am just tying it off in a knot. And then these eggs come with a hole already punched in them. And to get that with the tissue paper, I just poked like a little end of a paintbrush through so that way I could feed my twine through. And I just tie it off and then I will just cut off the back side of that. And then you can see how each of those look now they're on there. And I did just do a little bit of a finger twine bow that I put on the top of each of the eggs. I thought that added just a really cute little element. And again, I love twine, so that's totally optional. Now I have these little half beads that I had stained with antique wax, and I thought that they looked super cute on all the little like joints, almost like it's covering like a nail head. It's completely decorational, total optional step. I just thought it added a little bit of extra something to it. And then I just dry brush over each of them to brighten them up a little bit. Once you stand this up, as you can see, those eggs look so cute just hanging there. I love how this turned out. It's perfect for like a backsplash in a kitchen to rest it against that or on a shelf somewhere. What do you guys think of this? I love how it turned out. I have this cutting board or charcuterie board that I got from Hobby Lobby in their clearance. It was like $15 originally. I think I got it for like 75% off. It had this great big scratch down the middle in the plastic, so it's not like you would really want to use it. So I knew I was going to have to completely cover the surface. So I was thinking that Mod Podge would probably help with paint and this like plastic texture that it is. So I did a good coat of Mod Podge all over because I plan on painting the whole surface. And I just paint it all a white color. It takes like 2 or 3 coats to get the coverage that I want. Then using a combination of painter's tape and some washi tape, I made like a ticking stripe, so the wide stripe down the middle and then the 2 small stripes on the side. Now watch what happens when I peel back the tape. It starts to peel the paint off of the surface, and it does it almost with every strip that I peel off here. Now that Mod Podge was completely dry before I put the paint on. That paint had sat overnight and it had completely dried, but it still peeled some off. But I really liked the look of the stripe on there. So I just decided to go touch it up my best and see what that looked like before I scrapped it or started over. So I just went in with a little teeny brush with some white paint that I did and just touched those little areas up. And then I also go in with a little teeny tiny brush and I do the green. I did just take my time as I was doing this. I moved really slowly. This is even sped up to like double time, but I just wanted to make sure that I could get as crisp as lines as possible while kind of freehanding it. I go in with a little bit of white paint that's left on my brush and kind of dry brush it over to kind of give it an aged look. I thought that might mask any type of imperfections or anything there. So of course you would not have to do that step if your peel back of your paint worked out great. So I have these 3 shapes from Dollar Tree, the little chick, the little bunny, and the little egg. And I thought it would be really cute to do like a stack on there. So I'm just using that little spackling to cover up the little hole that is on the top of these. And I just stain them with some antiquing wax, and then I go around the edges with some white paint just to kind of give it a little chippy look and give it a little dimension when it's glued onto the cutting board. I take just a little bit of this pink pipberry and just kind of wrap it all around the egg. I thought that would be kind of a super cute little textural element there. And then I just lay these out on my cutting board to kind of see how I want them to lay, and this is the order that I decide. I felt like that egg needed to be in the middle with the little pipberry on there. And I have these little wooden discs and I'm using that to glue onto the cutting board. It will kind of raise them up a little bit, give it more of a 3D look than it would have had anyway, and it just kind of gives it a little bit more of a high-end feel, I think. Plus you're getting a really even surface to glue on there with that pipberry on the back of the egg.
Next, I take a piece of rope from Dollar Tree and unravel it and take one of the little strands and I just feed it through the hole that's there and just tie a knot in it to kind of have it look more of like a rustic element there. I think this turned out so cute. It is going to be so fun sitting against the backsplash in my kitchen. I love this. I think the colors look so cute and I love the little color of the antiquing wax on the bunny and the egg and the little chick there. In my shopping around online for Easter decor, I have seen a lot of bunny topiaries for like your front porch, and I thought it would be super cute to make a little miniature version. I am just using these already made moss balls that I got in the floral section at my craft store, and I just need 2 of them. They came in a package of 4, and I'm just taking a little teeny pot from Dollar Tree and I'm just shoving some Spanish moss down in there. That's going to give something for my little skewer here to like stick into. So I just take a barbecue skewer and I am just going to put the top and the bottom onto that. So that's pretty self-explanatory, I think. And then I'm just going to cut that little skewer down to size. There was a little bit peeking out of the top there. So I'm just doing that and I'll pull that top layer up so you can't see that at all. For the ears, I'm just using some burlap ribbon and I just do my best to freehand the shape of an ear. I leave it a little wider at the bottom because I need to fold these in. Once I get a shape that works, I just use that as a template to cut my second ear out. Now, how I get this to be folded so it's an ear and it looks cute, you can see how that is there. I'm just going to take the inside portion of the ear that will be facing me and I fold the edges backwards. So I put a little glue and I fold those edges backwards. So you can see exactly how I do that. And I'll just add a little teeny dab of glue there, fold that back. Okay, so there we go. You can see how I fold that in to make that little crease in the ear, and then I just put a skewer in there and glue that together, and that's what makes a really cute like tuck in the ear, so that way it looks like an actual bunny ear. And I do the same process with the second ear. Honestly, I feel that this is very forgiving, this process right here. So if you feel like this is intimidating at all, honestly, cut sort of the shape out of an ear and just kind of start gluing it to the skewer. It's going to work out. I was pretty skeptical, but really as I was doing this, I was like, you know what? Like, it's very forgiving. And as long as you get that general shape of an Easter bunny ear, I think you're doing good. So after I get those edges tucked back, then I just put glue in the middle, lay that skewer down in and fold those sides over that. It really is so easy, guys. And then since I left the skewers a little bit longer, I will go in and trim those down so that way I can have them to stick in. So here I'm just going to cut those down and you just push those right in. They stay very firmly in there. You could add a little glue if you wanted to, but it was fine. Now they sell these at Hobby Lobby. These are like napkin holders, so you could easily get something like that to use. And I'm just going to tie just a very simple little bow around our bunny to define between the body and its head. And then I'm going to use what I always use, purple glue stick, just to give a little bit of stick onto that ribbon so it's not kind of sticking out. I thought it would be cute more to have it on its body, so that's why I did that. This would be so perfect for a tiered tray, just a shelf, anything like that. I think this turned out darling. I love the size of it. It is much better to fit into my home and my decor. I absolutely love how this turned out. Do you think it turned out cute?
This bunny is absolutely adorable. This was a Pinterest dupe that I had. These are 3 of the Dollar Tree wooden pallets. You could easily use one of their crates. I just like the size of the pallets. And then I am using these little wooden squares that come in a package of like 5 or 6. You're just going to paint your bunny whatever color you want. I chose white, and then I'm using 4 craft sticks. I'm using 2 of the jumbo size and then 2 of just the normal bigger size. And I paint the 2 big ones white and then the 2 ones for the inner ear pink. And then I just cut a little teeny triangle out of one of the craft sticks for the cute little nose. And I just used the back of my little sponge tool to do the eyes. So now on the ears, I'm just gluing the white part on first. I just used a little bit of hot glue, possibly use some wood glue. Mine's held up just fine though with just the hot glue on there. You just have to hold them in place until it completely dries and they seem pretty secure. And then I glued the inner part of the ear on. Look how cute. I just think this looks so cute. So of course I always have to decide, do I want to make this as a Mrs. Easter Bunny or a Mr. Easter Bunny? Did I want it to be the little bow to be the whiskers? I ultimately decided to have it be its cute little bow tie. Now I'm just going around all of the edges with some antiquing wax to kind of give that the farmhouse feel, and look at how absolutely darling he is. I just love this, and it is such a fun Easter DIY. I hope you give this one a try.
So I am taking this package of bunnies that I got at Dollar Tree, and I'm taking 3 of them. I believe it comes with like 6 or 8 in a package, but I am taking each one of these 3 to represent my 3 children. So you can do them in any group number that you want, but that's where I came to the conclusion of doing 3. So I'm just using some spackling to cover up. They come with a little hole that you can make like a garland or something, make ornaments or something out of them. So I just take spackle and I just cover that hole and let that dry so it becomes a solid piece. So now I am just going to paint each of my bunnies. Now you can do whatever colors you want. You guys, I let my 3 kids come and pick out the colors they wanted. I told them they had to kind of be like all pastels or all bright colors or something like that. And these are the tones that they all chose and the colors that they all chose. So I love the fact that I included them, but they're a little brighter than my normal decor. I love the colors they picked out, and I'm so excited that this represents them and each color that they picked. So I'm taking these frames that also came from Dollar Tree, and I just removed the little clip from them, and then I took out the little galvanized metal and I flipped it upside down because they had a hole on them, and I want my bunny, when I place it down, to cover that hole. So now I'm just taking some little wooden cubes that I have from Dollar Tree, and I just glue those down, and that will kind of prop these bunnies out to be more 3D. This would be totally optional, but I do like that 3D feel that it gives. So now I take just a little bit of hot glue and I just go down the edge of the one frame there, and you can see I'm kind of just pushing that next frame together, and I'm kind of putting it at an angle at the front at first and then pushing it backwards. So that way the glue, if it seeps out, will seep out on the back and not on the front. You can kind of see I place those front edges together and then push it back. Hopefully that makes sense. Now sometimes Dollar Tree things are not all symmetrical. So when I went to place this, the little flaps on the back that like hang those up, or not hang them up, but stand them up, it was not really level. So I just tore all of those off, and I just cut a couple craft sticks to glue on to reinforce the back of this. And now I'm just going with a little chip brush, and I'm just doing a little bit of distressing around each of the bunnies. I'm doing this just to add a little bit more texture to it, since it is on that little cube and it's got that 3D look to it. This just kind of helps give it a little bit more dimension. I first went around with antiquing wax and then decided that one in the middle needed a little bit bright white, and I liked how that looked, so I did that on all sides. And then I just took some twine and stapled that onto the back in case I decided to hang this, because I wasn't really sure where I was putting it. And now I just found these little pom-poms, and I thought they would be so cute to make these bunnies have a little cotton tail. So not only do I have the option to hang this, but I take a couple of the tumbling tower blocks and I just glue those onto the back, and I'm kind of standing it up so it doesn't like fall forward or anything. I get the right angle that I need for it to stand up. So if I decide to prop this up somewhere or hang it, I have either of those options. So I'm just showing you both here that you can do it either way, whatever best fits your style. But look at how cute it turns out. I might even go in with a little tag or cut out my Cricut, my kids' names to put on each of the bunnies. But I just thought this was so cute, and it was a fun way to kind of include them. They were all excited to see. I didn't tell them what I was doing. I just had them pick out the colors of paint. So it was kind of fun for them to see what this looked like when I got it all done. But what do you guys think of this?
I would like to thank you so much for joining me for today's compilation video. I hope that you enjoyed all of these DIYs. If you had a favorite, let me know down in the comments. I always love to hear which ones you guys like the best. Thank you so much for watching today. I'll see you next time. Happy crafting!
If you like the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.